By Monday morning, almost everyone in the Vantage boardroom believed the same thing. Evelyn Hart was a problem. Daniel had made sure of that. He told them she was emotional after the divorce. He told them she was bitter about Monica. He told them she had started calling herself a writer only after watching his career rise without her. It was a clean story. A useful story. The kind of story powerful men told when they needed a woman's pain to look unreasonable. Evelyn sat at the far end of the table with a slim folder in front of her and said nothing while Daniel spoke. He looked perfect in the morning light. Expensive suit. Steady hands. Monica seated 2 chairs behind him, pale and quiet. A row of board members watched Evelyn as if she were a storm Daniel had politely warned them about. "She supported me at home," Daniel said, his voice warm with practiced regret. "But these claims about ownership are exaggerated. Pain can make people remember things differently." No one in the room knew that the sentence he had just used had once appeared in an essay Evelyn wrote for him after his first public failure. No one knew his most famous speeches had begun on her old laptop. No one knew the proposal he wanted to buy, rebrand, and sell back to the world had been written by Evelyn years before she ever wore his ring. Daniel turned toward her with a soft smile. "Evelyn, I don't want to embarrass you, but we both know those words only mattered because I gave them a platform." Evelyn looked down at the folder. Inside were the pages he had once thrown into her suitcase. Then she lifted her eyes. "No, Daniel," she said. "You gave them your name." And for the first time that morning, someone at the table stopped taking notes. 3 nights earlier, Evelyn had still believed a marriage could end with one honest conversation. The house in Westport glowed warm behind the rain. Daniel's car was in the driveway, and beside it sat a black sedan she did not recognize. Inside, the house smelled of cedar, wine, and Monica Pierce's perfume. Monica stood near the kitchen island with one hand around a crystal glass. Her coat hung over the back of Evelyn's chair. Her lipstick was on the rim of a glass Evelyn had bought during their first year of marriage, back when Daniel still called every small thing they owned ours. Daniel did not look ashamed. "We need to talk," he said. Evelyn glanced at Monica, then asked her to leave. "No," Daniel said. "She stays." Monica lowered her eyes, but not enough to disappear. Evelyn placed her keys on the counter. Daniel had printed something and clipped it neatly into a black folder. He always did that when he wanted cruelty to look organized. "Is this about the dinner?" Evelyn asked. "The dinner was only the part you saw." Earlier that evening, Daniel had introduced Monica to donors and media executives as the woman who understands where this brand is going next. Evelyn had been standing by table 12. People turned just enough to make the humiliation polite. Daniel had used lines Evelyn recognized. "Women are not invisible because they lack value. They are invisible because someone profits from not seeing them." She had written that sentence in a draft he once dismissed as too personal. Now he was selling it to a room full of people who applauded him for his sensitivity. Daniel slid the folder toward her. "I want the divorce to be simple." The word landed without surprise. Some corner of Evelyn had been hearing it for months, in the way Daniel stopped asking what she thought, corrected her clothes before events, and called Monica after midnight from the hallway. Still, knowing a knife is coming does not make the cut clean. Evelyn opened the folder. Household accounts, settlement terms, public statement language, a paragraph about mutual respect that neither of them had written honestly. She turned the pages slowly. Daniel sighed. "You don't have to inspect every line like I'm trying to rob you. You never used to be this suspicious." "No," she said. "I used to be useful." Daniel's jaw shifted. For 8 years, Evelyn had been useful in ways no one photographed. When Daniel's first investor pitch collapsed in Boston, Evelyn rewrote it while he paced their apartment floor. She softened the arrogance, added the story about his father's printing shop, and gave him a closing line he repeated for the next 6 years. When his first magazine profile came out, readers called him unusually thoughtful. Evelyn had written half the answers. At first, she thought that was love. Later, she understood it had been a door closing quietly behind her. Her name never appeared on the speeches. Her drafts became his voice memos. Her sentences entered rooms she was not invited to. He said spouses did not keep score. Somehow, sharing had always meant giving until there was no label left on what she had given. On page 7, Evelyn stopped. All past, present, and derivative editorial concepts developed during the marriage shall be assigned to Daniel Hart Media Holdings for purposes of brand continuity, acquisition strategy, and future commercial use. She read it twice. Daniel, she said, what is this? Standard language. It mentions editorial concepts. You wrote for my brand. I wrote before your brand existed. You wrote in this house, he said, on my time, for my work, under my name. There it was. Not anger, not guilt. Ownership. Evelyn looked toward the small study off the hall. Her desk lamp was still on. A stack of old pages sat beside her graduate school laptop. The top page carried a title she had not looked at in years. The Unseen Women. A proposal she had sent to Vantage World when she was 23. Before Daniel's first real investor, before the wedding, before she learned how easily a woman could vanish while helping a man become visible, Vantage had sent a polite rejection. Too intimate for the current market, one editor had written. But someone named Ruth Bell had added one line at the bottom. There is a voice here. Keep it. Evelyn had kept it. Then she had hidden it. Daniel followed her gaze and walked into the study. He picked up the stack without asking. Don't, Evelyn said. He came back holding the pages in one hand and placed them on top of the unsigned divorce papers. This is exactly what I mean, he said. You attach emotion to paper and call it ownership. That paper is mine. His laugh was quiet. Evelyn, those words never meant anything without me. For a moment, she saw the marriage clearly, not as a collapse, but as a room where the lights had finally been turned on. Daniel reached for the small suitcase near the stairs. Her clothes were folded badly inside, along with a charger, a gray sweater, and one pair of old shoes. He dropped the drafts into the suitcase. Take them, he said. Take the old laptop too. I have the platform. I have the investors. I have Vantage looking at my offer on Monday. You have pages. Monday. The word stayed. Evelyn looked at the folder again, then at Monica. For the first time that night, Monica's confidence seemed thinner around the edges. Did he tell you I held him back? Evelyn asked her. Monica's mouth parted, but Daniel answered first. This is not about her. No, Evelyn said, closing the folder without signing it. It was never only about her. Daniel stepped closer. Don't make this ugly. Evelyn picked up the suitcase. Then she slipped page 7 from the divorce packet and folded it into the pocket of her coat. Daniel did not notice. He was already looking past her, toward the life he thought had begun. At the door, Daniel said, You'll realize soon enough that being behind me was the best place you ever had. Evelyn held the suitcase handle tighter. For years, she had mistaken being needed for love. That night, with her old laptop under one arm and the unsigned pages pressed against her side, she stepped into the rain with no house, no plan, and less than $400 in her account. But for the first time in a long time, every word she carried belonged to her. The rain had stopped by the time Evelyn found the Vantage World building. It was not the glass tower Daniel always described when he talked about buying it. It was older than that, 12 stories of limestone and narrow windows, with brass letters above the entrance polished soft at the edges. Evelyn stood across the street with her suitcase beside one ankle and her laptop bag cutting into her shoulder. People passed without looking at the woman who had slept 3 hours in a station waiting area. She almost turned around. Not because she was afraid of rejection. Rejection was simple. It came in polite emails, unanswered calls, locked doors. What frightened her was being seen without Daniel's name in front of hers. She crossed before that fear could become an instruction. The lobby smelled faintly of old paper and floor wax. A security guard looked from her suitcase to her face. Deliveries are around back. I'm not delivering anything, Evelyn said. I'm here to see Ruth Bell. Appointment? No. Then you'll need to email. I did. Evelyn opened her laptop on the edge of the desk. 7 years ago. She found the message and turned the screen toward him. Dear Miss Hart, thank you for sending The Unseen Women. The market may not be ready for something this intimate, but there is a voice here. Keep it. Ruth Bell. The guard read only enough to become uncomfortable. 1 minute. He made a call and used the phrase woman with a suitcase twice. 10 minutes later, an assistant led Evelyn upstairs. Vantage did not look like a dying magazine at first. There were framed covers in the hallway, awards behind glass, editors moving between desks with marked-up pages. But Evelyn saw what Daniel had probably seen too: empty offices, dimmed lights, a whiteboard with the words Board Review Monday 10 a.m. circled in red. Her stomach tightened. Monday was not just Daniel's offer. It was Vantage's deadline. Ruth Bell stood in a conference room with a pencil tucked behind one ear. She was silver-haired, narrow-eyed, and dressed in black like she had been invited to a funeral for bad sentences. You're Evelyn Hart. Yes. You look terrible. Evelyn almost laughed. I know. Good. Then we can skip pretending. A man stood by the window, reading a printed page. He was younger than Ruth, with rolled sleeves and the calm exhaustion of someone trying to hold a beautiful thing together with both hands. Ruth gestured toward him. Adrian Cole, editor-in-chief. Adrian looked up. You wrote this? Evelyn recognized the opening page of The Unseen Women. I wrote it before I understood what it was about. That usually means you understood more than you thought. Ruth placed the old email on the table. Why are you here now? Evelyn could have told them about Daniel, about Monica, about page 7 folded in her coat pocket. Instead, she said, because I don't want my best work to keep living in rooms where I'm not allowed to enter. Adrian studied her. Not kindly. Not unkindly. Carefully. Daniel Hart is making an acquisition offer, he said. Evelyn's fingers tightened around the strap of her laptop bag. Ruth noticed. Adrian noticed Ruth noticing. You know him, Adrian said. I was married to him until last night. No one tried to soften that for her. Did he send you here? Adrian asked. No. Are you here to stop him? Evelyn thought of Daniel dropping her pages into the suitcase. She thought of Monica looking away. She thought of the sentence on page 7. I'm here because Ruth told me to keep my voice, she said. I'm late, but I kept it. Ruth's expression changed by almost nothing. For her, almost nothing seemed generous. Adrian picked up a folder. We need a trial piece by tomorrow morning. 800 words. Profile of Marisol Vega. Former photo editor. Built half the visual language of a publication that never credited her. She won't trust easily. He slid the folder to Evelyn. No guarantees. No rescue story. No special treatment because your husband is circling this place. My ex-husband, Evelyn said. Adrian gave a small nod. Then write like you mean the correction. Inside the folder was a photograph of Marisol standing behind a famous editor. Marisol's face was half cut off by the frame. Evelyn touched the edge of the image. She knew that kind of disappearance. As she gathered the papers, Ruth moved toward a row of archive boxes stacked against the wall. Unsolicited Features 2016. Ruth ran a finger over the dust. I remember your proposal now, she said. Not all of it, but enough. Then her eyes shifted to the acquisition binder on Adrian's desk. The top page carried Daniel's name. Daniel Hart Media Holdings Strategic Purchase Proposal. Below it, in clean corporate type, was the phrase he had no right to use. The Unseen Women Initiative. Daniel Hart did not believe in waiting for permission. By Saturday evening, he had turned the top floor of Daniel Hart Media Holdings into a preview room for the future he intended to buy. Long glass table. Black folders. Imported wine. A screen showed the Vantage World logo beside his own, as if the two names had already agreed to stand together. Monica Pierce arrived in a cream suit Daniel's stylist had chosen for her. You look expensive, Daniel said. Monica smiled, though the compliment landed oddly. Not beautiful. Not brilliant. Expensive. I thought this was just a strategy meeting. It is, he said, straightening his cuff. But donors like to see the story before they fund it. The story being Vantage? the story being rebirth. He said it the way he said everything in rooms with money nearby, slowly enough to sound thoughtful, cleanly enough to be quoted. 6 investors arrived within the hour. 2 board advisors. 1 retired publisher who enjoyed being treated like a kingmaker. Daniel greeted them all by name, hand warm, smile easy. Grief over his marriage polished into something noble. Monica watched him work the room. She had seen Daniel tired, impatient, vain. But in front of investors, he became almost luminous. He listened with his head tilted. He paused before answering. He made other men feel less shallow for wanting profit. Then he began the presentation. Vantage does not need to become louder, Daniel said. It needs to become necessary again. The first slide changed. The Unseen Women Initiative. Monica felt a small tug in her memory. She had seen those words before, not on the slide deck, but in an old document Daniel had asked her to clean from his desktop that morning. The file name had not said Daniel. It had said Evelyn, Draft, Archive. Daniel continued. For too long, women's labor has been treated as background noise. Their work fills rooms they are not invited into. Their voices carry men who later forget to turn around. A donor leaned forward. Strong line. Daniel smiled. Thank you. Monica looked at the screen again. The line sounded too intimate for him. Daniel's own writing was sharper when he wrote alone, more metallic, full of acquisition language and phrases like scalable empathy. This sounded wounded, specific, lived in. A woman at the table, Marlene Frost, tapped her pen against the folder. Daniel, beautiful concept. But Vantage's legal team flagged intellectual property concerns last quarter. Are you certain your offer includes clean rights to this initiative? Only the people closest to Daniel would have noticed the pause. Monica noticed. One reason we're moving quickly, Daniel said, is to clean up old ambiguity. Ambiguity meaning? Uncredited internal development, he replied. Too much sentiment from people who never understood the commercial side. The retired publisher chuckled. Editors. Daniel smiled with him, but his fingers pressed once against the edge of the table. Monica had worked for him long enough to know that gesture. He was annoyed. Not threatened yet, but annoyed. After the meeting moved into wine and private conversations, Daniel pulled Monica beside the window overlooking the city. You were quiet, he said. I was listening. Good. Listen in public. Ask questions in private. The sentence stung more than she expected. He softened immediately, touching the back of her hand. Tomorrow night is the important dinner. By Monday morning, the board needs to feel that I'm inevitable. You'll be beside me when I speak. As what? His smile returned. As the woman who represents the next era. Monica looked toward the screen, where the words, "The Unseen Women," still glowed in pale letters. Did Evelyn work on any of this? She asked. Daniel's eyes cooled by 1 degree. Evelyn worked on many things around me. That doesn't make them hers. I only asked because the file. What file? She wished she had not said it. The old archive you wanted cleaned. Daniel was silent long enough for her to understand the mistake. Then he gave a soft laugh. My ex-wife saved every grocery list like it was literature. Don't let her disorder infect the room. Of course. But the answer did not leave Monica clean. Across the room, Marlene Frost was speaking quietly with another investor, and Monica caught only fragments. Rights issue. Board risk. Original author. Daniel stepped away to join them before the conversation could grow legs. Monica remained by the window. For months, Daniel had told her Evelyn was cold, small, dependent. A wife who could not keep up. A woman who confused support with talent. But the words on that screen had not sounded small, and Daniel had not answered the rights question like a man holding something that belonged to him. When the guests left, he found Monica near his laptop. The old file was still visible in the recent documents bar. Evelyn, Draft, Archive. Daniel closed the laptop with 2 fingers. Curiosity is useful, he said. Until it becomes disloyal. Monica stepped back. I'm loyal. I know. He kissed her forehead, almost absent-mindedly. That's why you're here. In the elevator down, Monica stared at her reflection in the mirrored doors. Cream suit, perfect hair, Daniel's future. She should have felt chosen. Instead, she remembered the way he had said useful, as if loyalty were another asset waiting to be assigned value. On Daniel's dark screen upstairs, the final slide waited for Sunday's dinner. Invisible women do not disappear by accident. Someone benefits from the empty space. Evelyn met Marisol Vega in a basement photo archive that smelled of dust, vinegar, and old ambition. Marisol did not shake her hand. She was 61, small, sharp-eyed, with gray hair pinned at the back of her neck and a camera strap still hanging from one shoulder. Though the camera itself was gone, around her were metal cabinets full of contact sheets from campaigns that had made other people famous. Adrian had warned Evelyn before sending her downstairs. She hates profiles, he said. Especially flattering ones. Ruth was less gentle. If you turn her into a symbol, she'll throw you out in 10 minutes. So Evelyn did not begin with questions about injustice. She began with the photograph from the folder. Marisol standing behind a famous editor, half her face cut away by the frame. Evelyn placed it on the table between them. Who cropped you out? She asked. Marisol looked at the image for a long time. Then she said, I did. That was the first crack in the story Evelyn had expected. Marisol pulled a stool closer and sat, her knees angled toward the cabinets, not toward Evelyn. The editor hated being photographed alone, she said. Said it made him look vain. So I stood behind him. Let the photographer catch part of me. Later, when the cover package came together, he asked if I minded being removed. And you said no? I said do what sells. Evelyn waited. Marisol's mouth tightened. I thought if the work survived, the name could come later. The sentence moved through Evelyn with uncomfortable precision. For the next hour, Marisol spoke in fragments. The lighting system she built for a women's issue. The junior photographer she trained, who later accepted an award without mentioning her. The cover concept that became Vantage's highest-selling issue in 2004. None of it came out as confession. Marisol did not want pity. She wanted accuracy. Evelyn understood that. By noon, Evelyn was at a spare desk near the copy department, writing with her coat still on. She wrote the first paragraph 3 times and deleted each one. The easy version was too clean. The angry version gave Daniel too much of the room inside her head. The truthful version began with Marisol's own choice. Before the world cropped Marisol Vega out, she had learned to step to the edge of the frame. Ruth passed behind her once, read over her shoulder, and kept walking. An hour later, she returned and crossed out the second paragraph with a pencil. Too much weather, Ruth said. There's one sentence about rain. One sentence can still beg for mood. Let the wound do the work. Evelyn should have been offended. Instead, she felt something loosen. Ruth was not treating her like Daniel's discarded wife. Ruth was treating her like a writer who could revise. At 4 o'clock, Adrian read the piece in his office. Evelyn stood because sitting felt too much like waiting for a verdict. He read without performing his reaction. No smile. No raised eyebrows. Just the faint movement of his thumb as he turned the pages. When he finished, he placed the copy on the desk. You protected her. I tried to tell the truth. You protected the truth from becoming spectacle, he said. That is rarer. Evelyn looked down at her hands. Ink marked the side of one finger she had not noticed. Will you publish it? With edits. Ruth appeared in the doorway as if summoned by the word. Many edits, she said. For the first time since leaving the house, Evelyn smiled without apologizing for it. The piece went live just after 7 that evening. Vantage did not announce it with fanfare. No dramatic headline about betrayal. No mention of Daniel. No photograph of Evelyn looking broken beside a suitcase. Just a clean title. The Woman at the Edge of the Frame. By Evelyn Hart. Evelyn stared at the byline until the letters stopped looking like a mistake. Her phone buzzed 15 minutes later. Not Daniel. A message from Marisol. You got the part I never said. Then another from an assistant upstairs. The article is moving. Fast. By 8, comments began gathering beneath the piece. Former assistants, stylists, junior editors, women who had watched their work travel under someone else's name. They were not shouting. That made the response more powerful. They were naming themselves. Across town, Daniel saw the article during dinner with Monica. At first, he laughed. She always did know how to make sadness sound useful, he said. Monica looked at the byline. By Evelyn Hart. Daniel took the phone from her and read more carefully. His expression did not fall. It rearranged itself into calculation. Near the end, Marisol had said something Evelyn almost cut. A man can stand in front of your work for years and still not own the light. Daniel read that line twice. Then his phone rang. Marlene Frost. He stepped away before answering. Monica watched through the restaurant window as Daniel's reflection overlapped with the glowing Vantage headline on her screen. When he returned, his voice had lost its softness. Evelyn and I need to settle some language before Monday, he said. Monica locked her phone. For the first time, she did not ask what he wanted her to do. Daniel chose the cafe because it had glass walls. That was always part of his method. Private cruelty worked better in public places where the victim had to help maintain the scene. Evelyn arrived at 4:30 with Ruth's pencil marks folded inside her bag. She had spent the afternoon revising Marisol's piece, and pretending Daniel's name on her phone had not made her pause. The cafe sat below a law office near Bryant Park. Daniel was already there, wearing charcoal gray and an expression designed for reasonable men. A folder waited beside his cup. No Monica this time. That made the table feel more dangerous. You look different, Daniel said as she sat. I slept badly. I meant the article. Evelyn removed her gloves. Then say the article. Irritation crossed his face. He covered it by opening the folder. Things are moving quickly. Vantage is fragile. The board is nervous. A public fight between us helps no one. There is no fight unless you keep trying to take what is mine. Daniel leaned back, almost saddened by her tone. This is what I was afraid of. You're personalizing business. Evelyn looked at the first page he pushed toward her. It was not the same divorce packet from the house. This version was cleaner. Shorter. Written for someone he expected to sign under pressure. Creative separation agreement. The title alone felt like an insult dressed in stationery. You have until Sunday evening, Daniel said. 6 o'clock. Sign this, and I'll make sure your position at Vantage is protected after the acquisition. You can write profiles. Human pieces. The soft things you're good at. Evelyn read without answering. Clause 2. Daniel Hart Media Holdings retained commercial adaptation rights for all concepts developed in proximity to Daniel Hart's brand activity. Clause 4. Evelyn Hart agreed not to contest use of language, themes, titles, campaign structures, or derivative editorial products associated with the Unseen Women Initiative. Clause 5. Both parties would refrain from public statements that could damage investor confidence. Her name waited at the bottom. It had never looked so much like a trap. You changed the wording, she said. I clarified it. You widened it. I protected the deal. No, Evelyn said. You protected yourself from the person who can prove where the deal came from. Daniel's smile faded at the edges. Careful. The word was quiet enough that the couple at the next table would not hear it. Evelyn heard all of it. Now, it meant remember how easily I can make people doubt you. Evelyn opened her bag and took out a pen. Daniel relaxed too soon. She did not sign. She circled clause 4. Who wrote this? My legal team. Your legal team knows about the Unseen Women? They know what they need to know. Do they know I submitted the original proposal to Vantage before we were married? His eyes shifted once toward the window. There it was. Not surprise. Calculation. Daniel had known there might be an archive. He just had not known Evelyn knew it too. You're confused, he said. I'm tired. Not confused. Adrian Cole is using you. Ruth Bell is using you. They need a sentimental face to slow my offer down. When this is over, they will put your name on 1 or 2 pieces and leave you with nothing. That sounds familiar. His jaw hardened. I made you part of rooms you never could have entered alone. No, she said. You entered them carrying my words and forgot to mention the door. The server came by with water. Daniel thanked him warmly, waited until he was gone, then slid the document closer. Sign it. Take the guaranteed role. Take the money. Stop turning a failed marriage into a career. The sentence hurt less than it should have. Maybe because Marisol's voice was still with her. Accuracy. Not pity. Evelyn checked the footer. At the bottom, in tiny type, was the internal file label. DHMH. Vantage. Rights transfer. Final. M. Pierce edits. Monica had edited it. Or Daniel wanted Evelyn to think she had. Evelyn placed the pages flat and photographed them before Daniel could reach across the table. His hand stopped halfway. Delete that. No. This was shared in confidence. You handed it to me. I handed it to my wife. Ex-wife, she said, and you handed it to the original author. His face lost its polish for 1 second. The man beneath it was not louder. Just smaller. You think one article makes you powerful? No, Evelyn said, standing. I think reading before I sign makes me harder to erase. Daniel rose too, but the glass walls did their work. You'll regret this by Monday. Evelyn put on her gloves. Maybe, but it will be my regret. Outside, the cold air struck her face clean. She walked half a block before opening a new message to Ruth. Attached, 3 photographs of the agreement, clause 4 circled, footer visible. Then she added 1 line. He wants the rights before Sunday at 6. Ruth replied in less than a minute. Do not sign anything. Bring your laptop. Archive room. Now. Evelyn looked back once. Through the cafe window, Daniel was on the phone, his reflection split by the glass. He did not look like a man who had lost his wife. He looked like a man who had misplaced evidence. The archive room was colder than the newsroom. Evelyn found Ruth Bell standing beneath a fluorescent light that flickered every few seconds, as if the building itself was deciding whether to keep remembering. Adrian Cole was already there, sleeves rolled up. 3 bankers' boxes open on the steel table. Ruth did not ask about the cafe. She held out her hand. Laptop. Evelyn set it down and opened the lid. Her fingers moved through old folders with names she had not touched in years. Speeches. Investor language. Daniel rewrites. Drafts she had saved because saving felt safer than arguing. Ruth leaned over her shoulder. Search Vantage. The old email appeared almost immediately. Dear Miss Hart, thank you for sending The Unseen Women. The line beneath it still caught in Evelyn's chest. There is a voice here. Keep it. Adrian looked at Ruth. You wrote that? Ruth's mouth pressed into a thin line. I wrote it and then failed to do anything useful with it. She turned to the boxes. The labels were faded, marked in black ink and old coffee stains. Unsolicited features 2016. Essays Women, Work, Culture. Rejected with notes. Ruth lifted folders out one by one. Evelyn watched her own past being searched like evidence from a crime scene. I was 23. Evelyn said. I mailed it because I thought sending something real to a real magazine would make me brave. Brave is not always rewarded on schedule, Ruth said. Was it rejected because it was bad? No. That answer hurt in a different direction. Ruth found the folder near the bottom of the second box. Hart The Unseen Women. Evelyn did not reach for it. Adrian did. Inside were 27 pages, a printed cover letter, Ruth's pencil notes, and a submission receipt stamped nearly 7 years earlier. 6 months before Evelyn married Daniel, Adrian read the first paragraph aloud. Stories of women whose labor built public men, private fortunes, family legacies, and cultural institutions without a name attached to the work. He stopped. The sentence on Daniel's acquisition slide was not identical. It was worse than identical. It had grown from this. Ruth placed the photographed creative separation agreement beside the old proposal. Clause 4 stared up from one document. Evelyn's original title stared up from the other. The rights problem is not theoretical, Ruth said. He knows enough to be afraid of this. Adrian turned another page. Submission timestamp. Editorial notes. Internal routing initials. Ruth. This predates the marriage. It predates his media company, Evelyn said. That changed the room more than shouting could have. Daniel had not built a platform and allowed her words to climb onto it. He had found a woman already carrying a voice and convinced her that the safest place for it was behind him. Ruth removed her glasses. I owe you an apology. Evelyn looked at her. I saw the piece, Ruth said. I knew it had force. I told you to keep the voice, then I let the industry teach you that keeping it meant hiding it. You didn't marry Daniel for me. No. But I understood the room better than you did, and I still let the room win. Evelyn had expected the archive to make her angry. Instead, it made her steady. Adrian gathered the old proposal, email printout, submission receipt, and Daniel's agreement into one folder. We need legal tonight. Tonight? Evelyn asked. The board vote is Monday at 10. Daniel's Sunday dinner is meant to lock nervous votes before anyone reads slowly. Adrian tapped the folder. This helps only if we use it before he defines you as the risk. Evelyn thought of the cafe's glass walls and Daniel's careful voice. What do you need from me? Ruth answered. Everything. Original files. Draft history. Emails where Daniel asked for rewrites. Anything proving he knew what he was using. Evelyn opened another folder. Daniel's speeches. A list unfolded across the screen. Boston Investor Pitch. Founders Dinner. Media Impact Forum. Vantage Acquisition Language. Beside one file was an old email from Daniel. Can you rewrite this in my voice before 7? Make it sound like I understand women's labor without sounding guilty. Adrian stared at the line. Ruth gave a dry, humorless laugh. There's our problem, she said. He knew exactly whose voice it was. Evelyn copied the files onto a drive Adrian placed beside her laptop. Each progress bar filled. At 9:12 p.m., Adrian's phone buzzed. Marlene Frost had forwarded a note from Daniel's team. Emergency concern re. Evelyn Hart's emotional fitness and conflict of interest. Supporting statement to follow. Ruth closed the archive box. Now he's moving. Evelyn looked at the old folder with her name on it. For years, she had thought proof would feel like revenge. It did not. It felt like standing upright after a long time bent over someone else's shadow. Across the city, Monica Pierce sat alone in Daniel's office, staring at the draft statement he had asked her to polish. The subject line read, Evelyn Hart Instability Narrative. Daniel's statement reached 3 inboxes before midnight. By morning, it had reached everyone who mattered. It did not accuse Evelyn outright. Daniel was too careful for that. The document used soft words, the kind that left bruises without fingerprints. Concern. Stability. Conflict of interest. Emotional proximity to the subject matter. At 7:40 a.m., a media blogger with a bright logo and no shame posted the headline Daniel's team had wanted. Vantage's new voice or bitter ex-wife? Evelyn read it at a desk near the copy department with a paper cup of coffee cooling beside her hand. The article quoted sources close to the acquisition. It said Evelyn Hart had recently separated from Daniel after a difficult private period. It questioned whether her sudden appearance at Vantage was professionnel or personnel. It hinted that her profile of Marisol Vega was part of a revenge campaign against powerful men. It did not mention the archive box. It did not mention the proposal dated before her marriage. It did not mention page 7. Daniel had learned a long time ago that a lie did not need to defeat the truth. It only needed to arrive first and dress better. Across the room, people pretended not to glance at her. That was new pain, quieter than Daniel's cruelty, more efficient. Adrian came out of his office holding his phone. Board members are asking whether publishing you creates legal exposure. Because of the article? Because Daniel wants them asking that before they ask what he stole. Ruth slapped a printed copy of the blog post onto Evelyn's desk. Trash with commas. Evelyn almost smiled. Almost. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should stop before he makes this uglier. No signature. Ruth saw her face. Daniel. Maybe. Monica, Adrian said. Evelyn looked up. She edited the rights transfer footer, he said. If Daniel is using her to send pressure, she may know more than she understands. Evelyn remembered Monica in the kitchen, eyes lowered, wearing victory like a dress that did not quite fit. I don't want to use her. Daniel will, Ruth said. That is the difference. At Daniel Hart Media, the Sunday donor dinner became a crisis rehearsal. Daniel moved through the conference room while assistants replaced folders, updated talking points, and removed Evelyn's name from every visible slide. Monica sat at the far end, editing the supporting statement he had given her. Evelyn Hart has shown increasing emotional instability following the end of her marriage to Daniel Hart. Monica's cursor hovered over the word instability. It felt too heavy to type for a woman she barely knew. Daniel stopped behind her chair. Don't soften it. I'm not. You are. You keep changing unstable to distressed. Distressed is more defensible. Defensible is for people who lack control. He reached over her shoulder and changed it back. Monica smelled his cologne and something underneath it, sharp and sleepless. She didn't look unstable when I saw her, Monica said. Daniel's hand paused on the keyboard. When did you become her witness? I'm saying the board may ask for specifics. Then we give them specifics. What specifics? Daniel straightened. She walked out in the middle of a marital discussion. She is attaching personal significance to shared work product. She is building a public identity around resentment. Choose your phrase. Monica turned in her chair. Did she write the original proposal? His expression did not change quickly enough. She wrote many drafts. Drafts are not ownership. That isn't an answer. It is the only answer you need. The conference room door was half open. Outside, two junior staffers stopped pretending to sort badges. Daniel lowered his voice. Be careful, Monica. You are here because I trust you to understand the image. The image, she repeated. Yes. The dinner tonight needs certainty. Investors need a face beside me that says forward motion, not domestic chaos. A face. A partner. But he had corrected himself too late. Monica looked down at the statement. Evelyn Hart Instability Narrative. The title now seemed less like strategy and more like warning. Advantage, Ruth, Adrian, and Evelyn spent the afternoon building a response they did not yet release. Legal wanted caution. The board wanted quiet. Daniel wanted silence. Evelyn wanted one thing Daniel had never given her. A room where she could speak in her own name. At 5:30, Adrian closed the folder of evidence. You do not have to attend the donor dinner. Yes, Evelyn said. I do. If you go, he will try to make you look unhinged in front of people who already want a reason to doubt you. Then I won't give him one. Ruth crossed her arms. That is not enough. Evelyn looked at the printed blog post, then at the old submission receipt beside it. No, she said. It isn't. So I'll give them something else. What? The order of events. At 7:50 that evening, Daniel stood in the private dining room of the Ashbourne Hotel, reviewing the opening line Evelyn had written years before. Invisible women do not disappear by accident. He smiled, satisfied. 10 minutes later, the hostess opened the doors. Evelyn walked in carrying no suitcase, no anger, and one slim folder with her name on it. The Ashbourne private dining room had been arranged to make Daniel look inevitable. 12 place cards. Low gold light. A screen behind the dessert table carrying the Vantage logo beside Daniel Hart Media Holdings. Monica stood near the entrance with a tablet, greeting donors by name because Daniel said names made power feel personal. Then Evelyn entered. Conversation thinned into a careful rearranging of attention. Evelyn wore a navy dress Daniel had never seen before and carried one folder. No dramatic entrance. No raised chin designed for cameras. She looked like someone who had decided not to explain her presence until explanation became useful. Daniel crossed the room before anyone else could. This is a private dinner, he said, his smile intact. Then you should have been more careful using my private work to decorate it. A donor near the table looked toward the screen. Monica saw Daniel's fingers close once against his palm. "Evelyn," he said softly, "this is exactly what I worried about." There it was, the tone from the statement. Concern as a weapon. Evelyn did not answer him. She turned to Marlene Frost. "Miss Frost, I know you asked about clean rights. I have the original submission receipt and timestamp available for legal review. I am not here to disrupt dinner. I am here to correct the order of events before anyone votes on a story that starts in the wrong place." Daniel laughed gently for the room. "My ex-wife has always been poetic about paperwork." A few people smiled because they were unsure what safety required. Monica did not. The opening line still glowed on the screen. "Invisible women do not disappear by accident." He had called it the emotional anchor. Now Monica wondered if he had ever written an anchor in his life. Dinner moved forward because wealthy rooms hated discomfort more than dishonesty. Daniel gave his remarks after the first course. He spoke about rescue, modernization, responsible storytelling. He called Monica the face of a new era, and the applause felt warm enough that she should have enjoyed it. But later, when the donors broke into smaller conversations, Monica stepped into the side hallway and heard Daniel speaking behind the half-open service door. His lawyer's voice came first. "If Evelyn produces the archive tomorrow, the rights question gets serious. Then we don't let tomorrow become about rights." Daniel said. "We make it about her judgment. And Monica? She'll sign the supporting statement." Monica froze. The lawyer lowered his voice. She seemed hesitant. "Monica is ambitious. Ambition is just loyalty waiting for a promotion." A pause. "And if she refuses?" Daniel exhaled, impatient. "Then she becomes another woman who misunderstood her role." The sentence struck harder than a shout. Another woman. Not partner. Not future. Not chosen. Monica stepped back before the door could open. Across the hallway, she saw Evelyn speaking with Marlene Frost. Evelyn was not pleading. She was showing dates. Receipts. Sequence. The kind of proof that did not need perfume. Monica returned to the dining room and sat beside Daniel through dessert. He slipped a printed statement under her napkin. "Tonight," he murmured. "Before you leave. Sign it and email it to legal." "Tonight." Monica unfolded it under the table. "I, Monica Pierce, personally witnessed Evelyn Hart behaving erratically during the dissolution of her marriage." The words waited for her to become useful. Daniel leaned close. "You want to be taken seriously in this industry? Serious people know when to stand with the winning side." Monica looked at his cufflinks, his calm mouth, the hand that had once touched her face like she was special. Then she looked at Evelyn across the room. Evelyn's folder was closed now. She was listening while Ruth Bell spoke to a board advisor. No one was saving her. She was simply no longer helping Daniel bury her. Monica reached into her purse and started a voice memo before sliding the phone back under the linen. "Say that again," she whispered. Daniel smiled, pleased by what he thought was obedience. "I said serious people stand with the winning side." "No," Monica said. "The part about Evelyn." His smile thinned. He bent closer, voice low enough for cruelty. "If Evelyn does not sign, I will make sure every board member sees her as an unstable ex-wife, trying to turn rejection into a career. By Monday morning, her little voice will sound like noise." Monica kept her eyes on the statement. The red recording light glowed beneath the tablecloth. For the rest of the dinner, she said almost nothing. But when Daniel sent her to collect the revised slide deck from his laptop bag, Monica copied 3 files onto a small drive Ruth Bell had left beside Evelyn's chair as if by accident. Evelyn, draft, archive. Rights transfer, final, M. Pierce edits. Instability. Narrative. At the end of the night, Daniel kissed Monica near the elevator. "You were perfect," he said. Monica smiled because he expected it. Behind her back, the drive pressed into her palm like a second pulse. At 9:52 on Monday morning, Daniel Hart entered the Vantage boardroom like a man arriving to claim property. He wore the same charcoal suit from the cafe, a darker tie, and the calm expression of someone who had practiced concern in a mirror. Monica followed 2 steps behind him. She carried no folder Daniel could see. Evelyn sat near the far end of the table with Adrian on one side and Ruth on the other. Her laptop was closed. The slim folder lay in front of her, untouched. Daniel smiled at it as though it were a child's toy. Marlene Frost called the meeting to order. We are here to review Daniel Hart Media Holdings' acquisition proposal and related editorial rights questions concerning the proposed Unseen Women initiative. Daniel lifted one hand slightly. Before we begin, I would like to address the uncomfortable matter directly. He stood without being asked. My marriage to Evelyn ended recently, he said, voice low with regret. I had hoped to keep that private. Unfortunately, Evelyn's involvement here has created confusion between personal pain and professional judgment. No one interrupted. That helped him. Evelyn supported me for years. I will never deny that. But support is not authorship. Emotional memory is not intellectual property, and resentment should not be allowed to endanger a company that hundreds of people depend on. A few board members looked at Evelyn. She is talented, he continued. But talent under stress can become fixation. I believe she has convinced herself that ordinary marital collaboration gives her ownership over concepts developed around my brand. Evelyn kept her hands still on the table. Daniel looked almost sad when he finished. I ask the board to proceed with facts, not feelings. Ruth opened her folder. Excellent, she said. Let's do that. The first document she placed on the screen was the 2016 submission receipt. E. Hart The Unseen Women. Submission date. 6 months before Evelyn married Daniel. More than a year before Daniel Hart Media Holdings was registered. The room leaned forward in pieces. One person adjusted glasses. Another stopped tapping a pen. Daniel did not move. Ruth clicked to the next page. The cover letter. The proposal. Her own pencil notes. Too intimate for market. Strong voice. Keep. Adrian spoke next. The acquisition proposal submitted by Daniel Hart Media Holdings uses the Unseen Women initiative as a central value driver. The issue is whether Daniel can purchase, rebrand, and commercialize a concept that entered Vantage's archive before his company existed. Daniel gave a patient laugh. An old title in a rejection folder does not equal ownership. No, Ruth said, but it establishes origin. The emails establish knowledge. The screen changed. Can you rewrite this in my voice before 7? Make it sound like I understand women's labor without sounding guilty. Daniel's email address sat at the top. His polish thinned. That was private marital communication. It was professional use of her labor. Adrian said. Repeated. Time. Stamped. And attached to public speeches under your name. Marlene Frost looked at Daniel. Did you know Miss Hart had submitted this concept to Vantage before your marriage? Daniel's jaw worked once. I knew she had written drafts. Evelyn wrote many drafts. That is not what I asked. He turned toward Evelyn. This is what she does. She collects paper, builds meaning around it, and waits until the most damaging moment to present herself as erased. Evelyn looked at him then. Not wounded, not pleading. Accurate. Ruth placed Daniel's creative separation agreement onto the screen. Clause 4 was highlighted. All language, themes, titles, campaign structures, and derivative editorial products associated with the Unseen Women initiative. Marlene read it silently. You asked her to sign this after your acquisition proposal was submitted? Daniel's smile returned too quickly. We were trying to settle overlapping matters. By asking the original submitter to surrender rights before this vote? By preventing personal confusion from derailing a strategic transaction. Ruth leaned back. There is a phrase for that. It is not strategy. Daniel shifted. Then he did what Evelyn had known he would do when documents cornered him. He stopped arguing with the paper and returned to her. I am concerned about Evelyn's state of mind, he said. My team has a supporting statement from someone who witnessed her behavior during the end of our marriage. He looked toward Monica. That was his mistake. Monica stood slowly. Daniel's expression warmed with warning. Monica, he said, Almost tenderly, "You don't have to get involved." She looked younger than she had at the dinner. Not weaker. Just less decorated by his confidence. "I already am involved." Monica placed a small drive beside Marlene Frost. "Daniel asked me to edit the rights transfer document. He asked me to prepare the instability statement. He told me the goal was to make Evelyn's claim look like emotional revenge before the board reviewed the archive." Daniel went pale with anger, not fear. "She is confused," he said. Monica took out her phone. "I was confused Saturday." She pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room, low and unmistakable. "If Evelyn does not sign, I will make sure every board member sees her as an unstable ex-wife trying to turn rejection into a career. By Monday morning, her little voice will sound like noise." No one spoke over the recording. No one needed to. When it ended, Daniel reached for words and found none of his own. Marlene Frost removed her glasses. "Mr. Hart, your offer will not proceed to vote." Daniel stared at her. "You can't make that decision because of one recording." "No," Marlene said. "We can make it because of the documents, the timeline, the undisclosed rights issue, and your attempt to discredit the rights holder before review." Rights holder. The words moved through Evelyn more quietly than victory. Daniel turned to Adrian. "Vantage is dying. I was offering it a future." Adrian looked at him. "A future built by stripping names off the people who wrote it is only a cleaner version of the past." Daniel's eyes found Evelyn last. He looked at her as if she had betrayed him by becoming visible. "You wanted this," he said. Evelyn opened the folder in front of her. Inside was the old proposal, its first page marked by Ruth's pencil from years ago. "No," she said. "I wanted my name back." Marlene turned to Evelyn. "Miss Hart, Vantage would like to continue the Unseen Women under your authorship and with formal rights protection. We will discuss terms separately, without Mr. Hart present." Daniel let out a short laugh. It was ugly because it was honest. Monica stepped away from him before anyone asked her to. Security did not drag Daniel out. There was no spectacle. No raised voices. Just folders closing. Board members standing. The clean sound of a deal dying under the weight of its own lie. At the door, Daniel stopped beside Evelyn. "You think this makes you real?" he asked. She looked at the man who had once worn her sentences like tailored clothes. "No," Evelyn said. "It only proves I was real before you noticed." Daniel left the room with no applause. No offer, and no language beautiful enough to hide behind. Daniel's collapse did not happen in a single dramatic fall. It happened in cancellations. By Wednesday, 2 investors had withdrawn their letters of support. By Friday, the media blogger who had called Evelyn bitter published a correction with Daniel's name in the headline. By the following week, Daniel Hart Media Holdings delayed payroll, then blamed market instability, though everyone in the office knew the market had not been the one caught lying. Monica resigned first. She did not ask Evelyn for friendship. She did not ask to be forgiven in public. She sent one email to Vantage Legal, answered every question, and left Daniel's company with a cardboard box and no camera following her out. Evelyn respected that more than an apology speech. Vantage moved slower. Ruth insisted on contracts written in plain language. Adrian brought in outside counsel. Marlene Frost required written protection for every woman interviewed under the Unseen Women. No story would be sold, licensed, or adapted without consent. No pain would be polished into product because it tested well with donors. Evelyn signed the final agreement with a silver pen Ruth handed her across the conference table. "Your name first," Ruth said. Evelyn looked at the page. Evelyn Hart, creator and lead writer. The signature took less than 3 seconds. Getting there had taken years. The series launched that winter. It did not become famous overnight. It grew the way truthful things often grow. One person read it, then sent it to someone who had stopped trying to explain herself. Former assistants, nurses, editors, wives, daughters, women who had learned to stand just outside the frame. Vantage survived. Then it changed. Adrian never called Evelyn his discovery. When reporters tried, he corrected them. She was not discovered. he said once, while Evelyn stood beside him backstage before an industry award dinner. She arrived with the work. We finally opened the door. That was the first night Evelyn let herself believe love could stand near her without standing in front of her. Months later, Daniel waited for her outside the Vantage building. He looked thinner. Not ruined in a poetic way. Just smaller, without the rooms that used to magnify him. His coat was wrinkled. His tie was loose. For a moment, Evelyn saw the young man who once practiced a speech in their kitchen with shaking hands. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he said. She waited. Then he gave a tired laugh. "That's not true. I don't know how to start a sentence without needing something." The honesty surprised her. "I lost the company," he said. "Most of it. The rest is debt. Monica won't speak to me. Investors don't return calls." He looked at the brass Vantage letters above the entrance. "I saw your name on the cover in the airport." Evelyn said nothing. "I kept staring at it," Daniel continued. "Not because you look different. Because I recognized the voice before I let myself recognize the woman. A year ago, those words might have broken something open in her. Now they only arrived late. I'm sorry," he said. "For stealing from you. For making you feel like you were lucky to stand behind me. For Monica. For all of it." Evelyn believed he meant it. That did not make it useful enough to rebuild with. She reached into her bag and took out an envelope. Daniel looked at it carefully. As if kindness might be another trap. "There's a contact inside," she said. "A small publisher in Connecticut needs a consultant for operations, not speeches. It won't fix your life. But it's honest work if you can stand not being admired for doing it." He opened the envelope. No check. No rescue. Just a name, an address, and a beginning too modest to hide behind. "You forgive me?" he asked. "Yes?" His eyes lifted. "But forgiveness is not a door back," Evelyn said. "It's only me choosing not to carry you." Daniel nodded once. This time, when he walked away, Evelyn did not watch until he disappeared. Years later, in Evelyn's office at Vantage, the first draft of The Unseen Women hung in a simple frame. The paper had yellowed slightly. Ruth's pencil note remained in the margin. "There is a voice here. Keep it." Below the page was a small brass plate. Evelyn Hart original draft, first voice. Adrian came in carrying their youngest daughter on his hip, while their son ran ahead with a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures and 1 very large magazine. Their daughter pointed at the framed pages. "Mommy, why do you keep old paper on the wall?" Evelyn looked at the suitcase tucked on the shelf beneath it, the same one she had carried into the rain. Then she smiled. "Because those pages were the first place I stopped disappearing." She turned back to her desk, where a new article waited. At the top of the page, her name was already there.